Здравствуйте! С вами
Greetings.
экстренные новости
This
на
is
канале
breaking
АЛЛАТРА ТВ.
news on Alatra TV.
Аномальные температуры и осадки.
Abnormal temperatures and precipitation, widespread floods and fires, increased seismic and volcanic activity, and rapid melting of glaciers. All these phenomena are interrelated manifestations of global climate change, which occurs cyclically every 12,000 years due to astronomical impacts on our planet and its core.
Дестабилизация ядра
Destabilization of the core leads to a weakening of the Earth's magnetic field and a shift in the poles.
центробежная
An
сила
increase in centrifugal force leads to an abnormal expansion of the planet across the equator.
Ударные волны разбалансированного ядра
The shock waves of an unbalanced core result in increased earthquakes, emergent cracks, and fractures in the Earth's crust. Through these fractures, an intense degassing takes place while water goes down into the bowels of the Earth in large volumes. Magma rushes to the surface and heats this water, which evaporates into the atmosphere and returns to the planet in abundant precipitation.
Our planet's core is currently shifting towards the North Hemisphere, and the synchronization of climatic disasters suggests that we are in an active phase of global and disruptive change.
в этом выпуске. Смотрите.
Watch next in this episode.
таяние ледников
Melting glaciers triggers the movement of the Earth's crust. As ice sheets and glaciers melt around the world, the burden on the Earth's crust decreases, so it moves upwards. This is indicated in a study published in the Geophysical Research Letters journal.
Ученые использовали спутниковые
During
данные.
the study, scientists used GNSS satellite data on the ice loss in Greenland, Antarctica, mountain glaciers, and ice caps. It was discovered that the melting of the Greenland and Arctic glaciers is causing significant vertical and horizontal deformation of the Earth's crust across much of the northern hemisphere.
The catastrophic climate change is also evidenced by the fact that rain fell at the highest point of the Greenland's ice sheet on August 14. This is an extreme event, as it may never have happened before.
Об этом сказал
Martin Stendal, a researcher at the Danish Meteorological Institute, said,
для того, чтобы выпал
"For rain to fall, the temperature must be above or just below 0 degrees Celsius."
Смотрите о снежных осадках.
Watch the next report about snowfall in South America.
В середине августа 2021
In
года
mid-August 2021, a record snowfall hit the mountainous regions of Argentina. Meanwhile, the temperature dropped to -20 degrees Celsius. Such a weather phenomenon caused great difficulties on the roads, and not only, as in the northwest of New Kent province, the snow cover reached the roofs of the houses, and people had to make a tunnel in the snow to get out of their home. On August 27th, snow fell in the town of El Salvador, Chile, in the Atacama Desert, which is considered the driest place on Earth. In some places, the depth of the snow cover reached 15 centimeters. Locals say that snow in August and in such quantities is quite a rare phenomenon for this region.
В то время, когда юго-восток
While the southeastern US was hit by a powerful hurricane, the west and northwest of the country were gripped by drought. According to the US Drought Monitor, as of August 27, the states of California, Nevada, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, Montana, and North Dakota are experiencing extreme and severe droughts. Climatologists state that multi-year drought indicates an exacerbated climate change that is affecting people's lives and health, as well as agriculture, water supply, and power generation.
On August 29th, one of the strongest hurricanes, Hurricane Ida, struck Louisiana. It is worth mentioning that exactly 16 years ago, Hurricane Katrina hit the state, as a result of which the state's largest city, New Orleans, was flooded. ALLATRA TV reporters from Mexico and the USA will continue the topic of hurricanes.
Hello, this is ALLATRA TV reporter from Mexico. On August 28th and 29th of 2021, a devastating Hurricane Nora swept across the Pacific coast of Mexico. It went ashore near the city of Puerto Vallarta in the state of Jalisco. As a result of floods and landslides caused by the hurricane, several people were injured and one person is reported missing. The gale wind reached a speed of 120 kilometers per hour and swept away everything in its path. Due to the abundance of precipitation, several towns were flooded and about 500 homes were damaged. On August 27, a powerful Hurricane Ida that formed off the coast of Cuba hit the island of Juventud. The wind speed reached 140 km per hour. The gale wind broke palm trees and toppled power lines. As a result, almost the entire island was left without power supply. The hurricane caused significant damage to agriculture. In the west of Cuba, in the province of Pinar del Rio, more than 10,000 people were evacuated due to the approach of the hurricane.
Hello, this is ALLATRA TV reporter from the United States. After passing along the coast of Cuba and nearly doubling in strength, Hurricane Ida struck the coast near Louisiana with a powerful blow on August 29th. By this time, it had already reached Category 4. Sadly, there were fatalities. The maximum wind speed reached 240 kilometers per hour and reached a peak of 288 kilometers per hour. In anticipation of the arrival of Ida, a state of emergency was declared in the states of Louisiana and Mississippi. A warning of necessary evacuation was issued along the entire coastline, but the hurricane intensified so quickly that the authorities did not have time to arrange the mandatory evacuation of 390,000 people. Most residents of Louisiana cities left the expected disaster areas in private vehicles. Traffic was jammed for miles on the highways. The coastal areas that took the brunt of the storm were hit the hardest. In New Orleans, the power supply was cut off completely. More than 1 million homes were left without electricity. There were also problems with drinking water and communication in affected areas. The full extent of the damage brought by the hurricane is yet to be assessed, but now it is already clear that the consequence of the natural force became catastrophic for the southeast of the United States. Storm surges, strong winds, and flooding caused numerous damages to infrastructure, buildings, vehicles, and power lines. 34 helicopters and airplanes and 200 cross-country vehicles have been sent to deal with the consequences. As of August 31st, the storm had moved into Alabama, Georgia, and had already weakened to the level of a tropical storm.
Тропический шторм Ида.
Having weakened to the level of a tropical depression, Tropical Storm Ida brought heavy rains to Virginia. As a result, severe flooding and landslides in Buchanan County destroyed more than 20 homes on August 31st. A state of emergency was declared. Dozens of people were evacuated.
Large-scale flooding in late August also occurred in another part of the planet. For example, since August 26, in Chongqing municipality in southwestern China, heavy rains and flooding disrupted the usual lives of more than 3,000 people. The natural force destroyed more than 100 houses in 47 localities and damaged over 160 hectares of crops.
On August 28-29, massive floods and landslides occurred in the Shanxi province. Over 23,000 people were evacuated there. Next, an ALLATRA TV reporter from China will tell us about other natural disasters in Southeast Asia. Hello, this is ALLATRA TV reporter Ivan Markov from China. On August 21st, a powerful tornado suddenly appeared in Huludao city, Liaoning province, China. There were some casualties. The tornado damaged more than 50 houses and buildings, tore down billboards, uprooted trees, and smashed streetlights. People were evacuated from the damaged houses immediately. On August 23rd, a heavy downpour with hailstones hit the northeastern part of China. The city district of Dakin and Heilongjiang province were affected. The rainfall occurred reaching the Hangtmon. Hailstones reached the size of the goose egg. Fortunately, there were no human casualties. Roofs and houses were damaged, windows were broken, crops were destroyed as a result of the natural disaster. Large hailstones damaged a huge number of vehicles. On August 24th, the city of Sihanoukville in South Cambodia received about 280 millimeters of rain, which is half of the monthly norm. This caused flash flooding. Unfortunately, there are fatalities. The drainage canals overflowed, flooded in some areas around the city. The same day, a landslide came down in the Mandalay region, Myanmar, after heavy rains. The massive cloud damaged several residential buildings in which there were people. Unfortunately, there are victims. Several people were injured. According to the UN Office of Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, since the end of July, monsoon's rain in Myanmar had disrupted the normal life of about 125,000 people. On August 29th, flood affected residents of the country of Pattaya, Thailand. As a result of heavy downpours, basements of the flood buildings floors of buildings were flooded, as well as road traffic was disrupted. And I would also like to add something. As you can see, a large number of climatic cataclysms have occurred in recent months. Even where I come from, there was an extraordinary heat in the city. It was very difficult to survive this summer. There were almost no rains at all. The temperature was about 40 degrees Celsius. These indicators are simply unprecedented. And of course, our task and the purpose of our project is to cover all of this, to talk about the changes in the climate that are now taking place all around the world, so that we can eventually unite and understand the way out of this situation. How can we solve this problem? How can we get out of this consumer attitude and be more tending towards the environment, towards each other?
In late August, heavy rains and floods in Thailand affected 10 provinces. More than 320,000 people were injured, mainly in the central regions of the country.
Meanwhile, an unprecedented heat in the steppes of Kazakhstan led to a severe drought. Farmers are losing livestock in a massive way due to lack of water and food. This situation leads to food shortages and also significantly affects the sole source of income for many people.
ALLATRA TV reporter will tell us about natural disasters and their consequences in Yakutia, Buryatia, and Kamchatka.
Hello, this is ALLATRA TV reporter from Tuva. Heavy rains and snow came to Yakutia after the fires. On August 25th, 2021, the water level of Khanda River rose. The mudflow damaged a section of the federal highway, which resulted in traffic disruption. A few days later, the first snow fell in Ust-Yansky Ulus. Local residents recorded a weather anomaly on video. On August 29th, the Selenga River overflowed in its bank in Kakhtit district of Buryatia, Russia. About 60 houses were flooded. A state of emergency was declared in the state of Nosh. No casualties were reported. As a result of the flood, the property of the villages was seriously damaged. Water damaged furniture and household appliances, washed away gardens and greenhouses. On the 8th of August, the Shivech volcano in Kamchatka released an ash column of 3.5 kilometers high into the air. As followed, an orange aviation hazard code was declared. The length of the ash plume in the northwest direction was about 30 kilometers. The situation is worsened by the fact that there are tons in the path of the plume propagation. The Shivech volcano became more active after the collapse of a lava obelisk in its crater. It was triggered by the impact of a major earthquake that occurred on July 29, the Alaska region. Yuri Dimanchuk, a volcanologist, also said that activity of the Shevelish volcano in Kamchatka is increasing. There are large failures of hot soil. I would also like to say personally that the climatic changes that are now taking place around the world are already so obvious that they cannot be unnoticed. The number and strength of the cataclysms is increasing. This summer, the whole world got flooded. Europe, Russia, China, India, Asian countries, Africa, USA, South America, Australia. People, wake up. We are now on the edge of the abyss. A little more time, and we will all fall down. But while there is still time, there is time to unite and save humanity. And the only chance to save humanity is in building the creative society. Let's not miss this chance. Thank you.
В прошлом выпуске мы
In the
освещали...
previous episode, we covered the news about the forest fire in the Moldovan Republic, and Latra TV team went to the scene to interview eyewitnesses and representatives of life-saving services. Alatra TV reported from the scene of the disaster. Between August 19th and 21st, the village of Stiklany of the Prvomaisk district in Nizhny Novgorod, lightning strikes set fire of the forest area of the State Moldovan Reserve. The natural disaster destroyed about 25 houses. People managed to evacuate safely in time. A few weeks ago, people were resting peacefully, spending their weekends surrounded by beautiful nature, and someone was even living here, but all we see now are burned out ashes. Did people think that such a thing could happen on their land? How did they survive the disaster? We were able to talk to eyewitnesses of this tragedy.
We were not warned. On the contrary, we were. Konstantin Rozov called the emergency number that we had a fire. It was 2 p.m. on August 19th. He was told, "Can you tell me the approximate coordinates where it is?" But how can he determine the coordinates? He said that we cannot find out where it is located, whether it is in Nizhny Novgorod district or in Mordovia. Well, I mean, time has been wasted. Although I think that the fire doesn't care which authorities these are and who they belong to. That is, it had to be put out urgently. So first, time was lost. Secondly, time was missed when they went to the foresters' border. They gathered there and consulted. And the fire was burning, and the fire was getting bigger and bigger. And by 9 p.m., everything was covered with black smoke. Pillars of fire. We saw it all. It was still 3 o'clock in the morning. The whole place was on fire, all around. We saw it all. No one came to us. It didn't happen. What can I say? Of course, the organization wasn't very good, to put it mildly. And then at 3 o'clock, we lay down here for a bit, and at 4 in the morning, we were awakened. The whole delegation came. The Prvomaisk authorities, police, medics, emergency ministry, everyone came. They told us to evacuate because the fire had already come to Stiklany. Our car was ready, so we got in and left. 2 houses burned down in our village behind me. The forest burned down behind me. My friend's bathhouse and 2 garages burned down, but the house was saved. A house and a garage burned down 1 house away from my place. You can see it all. There's still like that now. And in the village, the fire went along the highway and went to the village itself. A total of 25 houses burned down there. First of all, the climate is changing abnormally now. It's hot, we don't have any water here. I have a borehole. I dug a borehole for my own money. That's all there is to it, and no one else has anything. Wells are drying up, and we also dug a borehole because it was impossible to treat the plot and water it. First of all, I want to say you have to be calm. Do not get nervous, do not fuss. That is, everything should be organized. There should be a relationship with neighbors. And after that, you should make some decisions and contact the authorities. Immediately when the firefighters came, we went to this point to find out what should be the next steps. No need to be nervous, no need to panic.
The main thing is to unite, right?
Yes, that's right. Here we have 5 people who, you could say, saved several of our homes.
When firefighters arrived, they didn't know where to go, what, how, and anywhere. They didn't know the whereabouts of the village. And so it is thanks to these 5 people in Milobrison I was talking about. They are local people. Guys come here, they don't know where the road is, how to get there, how, what, but these guys are locals. You can find a better way through here, the car will be able to pass there. That's where you can put the hose, that's the place better to put out the fire. I mean, local people, they know the village. We live here in the village in a very friendly way. And this disaster that came to us, it strengthened us even more to each other. Personally, I haven't had a quarrel with anyone for 31 years. If there are questions, I come up, we speak calmly, and people understand you, the locals. So our unity, our mutual understanding, that's what saves us. I want to thank you guys. Thank you for coming. No one arrived here before you.
Жители Мадагаскара
People of Madagascar are experiencing famine. According to the UN, the island is experiencing its worst drought in 40 years. Extremely low rainfall has been observed for 4 years. Rural areas are suffering from sandstorms. Arable land are becoming increasingly unsuitable for growing crops.
Unfortunately, more and more areas are becoming unsuitable for human life, and in the consumerist format of society, we cannot solve these problems. See more about the effects of climate change elsewhere in the world in the reports below.
Hello, this is Alatra TV reporter from India. As of August 29, 2021, in the Indian state of Assam, massive floods affected more than 250,000 people. More than 700 villages and 16 districts were flooded. Dozens of homes, roads and crops were completely destroyed. More than 6,000 people were forced to move to relief camps.
В конце августа проливные дожди накрыли 4
Heavy rains hit 4 countries on Sulawesi province, Indonesia. In late August, tens of thousands of people were affected by widespread flooding. In some areas, floodwaters were as much as 2 meters deep. Over 10,000 houses, bridges, roads, schools, and health centers were damaged. In central Sulawesi province, a local river burst its banks. Madjen country, West Sulawesi, received nearly a month's worth of rainfall in 24 hours. Landslides and mudslides were also recorded in northern Sumatra province. Sadly, there have been loss of life. There are injured people as well.
31 августа 2021
On August 31st, 2021, prolonged rainfall resulted in flash floods and landslides in parts of Maharashtra state, India. There is a disease reported and there are missing people. In rural areas, water flooded homes and caused extensive damage to property and businesses. Due to damage on bridges and roads, many agricultural areas were cut off from the city. A day earlier, in the northern state of Uttarakhand, a landslide came down after rain, which covered several houses. Unfortunately, there were casualties and some people reported. On August 30th, in parts of Darchula region, Nepal, heavy rains also caused floods and landslides. Unfortunately, there are casualties and missing people. Floodwaters washed ways and destroyed bridges. The disaster damaged homes and infrastructure and killed cattle.
С 30 на 31
Flooding occurred in Auckland, New Zealand from August 30th to 31st. In just 1 hour, up to 90 millimeters of rain fell, which is almost a monthly precipitation rate. Dozens of families were forced to leave their homes in the middle of the night. The mayor of the city said that this flood was unexpected for them. During the last week of August, a series of severe floods occurred on the northern Mediterranean coast of Spain. On August 29, due to heavy rains, flooding began in the municipality of Benicassim, province of Castellón. Here, in just one day, 155 millimeters of precipitation fell, which is several times higher than the monthly norm. This is the highest recorded indicator in the province. Roads were damaged and about 50 homes were flooded. On September 1st, shocking floods were reported in the municipalities of San Carlos de la Vida and Alcanar in the province of Tarragona. According to eyewitnesses, streams of water rushing through the streets carried away cars and damaged street furniture. Due to the rampant forces of nature, transport and rail links were disrupted. About 10,000 people were left without power supply. According to the Catalan Meteorological Services, the city of Alcanar received about 215 liters of precipitation per square meter in less than a day. From August 26 to September 1st, a powerful cold front hit a number of provinces in South Africa. It caused torrential rains, rare, unusually heavy snowfalls, and hurricane winds with gusts of up to 80 km per hour. Such weather conditions are not typical for South Africa. This is not the first cataclysm that the country is experiencing in recent months. So, for example, at the end of July in South Africa, historical records of the lowest temperature were broken.
Сейчас на карте
The map now shows the cataclysmic events that occurred during the week. As you can see, they are occurring everywhere. According to a report from the World Meteorological Organization, the number of natural disasters increased fivefold from 1970 to 2019, and these are statistics without taking into account the synchronization of cataclysms, which began in 2020.
At the conference, Global Crisis, this already affects everyone. Scientists, experts provided facts about the causes of global climate change. Everyone should know about this threat to the life of all humankind.
Excerpt from the international conference, Global Crisis. This already affects everyone.
It is time for all of us to open our eyes and take a sober look at what is happening in our world, at what's happening in our common home.
As a result of the cyclic galactic interaction, in 1998 there was a jump of the inner core. Now the iron core of our planet is displaced to the north. It beats in the process of rotation and is discordant. Because of this dissonance, the electromagnetic field of the planet, which is generated by the core, decreases inside the planet, and now we see the weakening of the Earth's magnetic field and the abnormal drift of the North Magnetic Pole.
Cosmic galactic radiation, in essence, destroyed our Earth from the inside, as well as it affects our outer shell, the atmosphere. And the result of this impact you see outside your window. And that is exactly what takes place right now when all protective mechanisms of Earth are weakened. We are influenced by this deadly rays, and the consequences of this rays are almost irreversible.
The increased heat in the center of the planet is like what's going on in the center of the star, and we're going to have more earthquakes before the event happens. We're going to have more volcanoes going off and things like that. You can't stop it. And we are, in fact, having that going on right now. A lot of volcanoes going off all over worldwide. So it's a mechanism.
That since 2004, the intensity of major earthquakes have increased. There were no earthquakes like this before, and for 40 years. And now, there's about 10 of them within this time frame.
And the same with thunderstorms. We may not be seeing a change in the number of the storms, but the intensity of the thunderstorms is also increasing because there's more energy in the system. And you know there's conservation of energy. You can't get rid of energy. So energy goes from solar heat energy to electrical energy eventually in the lightning. So it just gets converted from the heat into eventually into the lightning, and so we have more lightning in the thunderstorms. But these waves mean that on the other side of the wave, like in Alaska, the temperatures can be very warm in the winter.
Water vapor plays a major role in the greenhouse effect on our planet, roughly 80%. 10% are trace gases. What are they? These are the very freons, ozone, methane, and carbon dioxide gases that everyone is talking about. 10%. But of those 10%, only 10% is anthropogenic. Hence, the total contribution of anthropogenic carbon dioxide to the greenhouse effect on our planet is 1%.
Which is not being talked about enough because apparently CO2 is much more profitable.
If we remain in consumeristic format of society, in a world of disunity and hatred, we will not survive. Because human life in the present day society is worth nothing. Only people themselves can now consolidate and change the format of society to a creative one, to build a creative society where human life is the main value. But this is possible only with participation of each person.
Excerpt from the International Conference, Global Crisis. This already affects everyone.
Only advanced preparation and unity of all humanity in the face of impending danger gives a great chance of survival and overcoming difficulties together in a time of global climate change.
Thanks God, the truth is already being voiced, because in order to change the world, it is necessary to at least see this world.
Do you know what is good? It's good that this truth already sounds not only from us,
right,
but also from those whom people elect, as well as from scientists whom people regard as authorities.
All that's left is for us to admit that we are really rolling into an abyss and simply understand that this negative scenario is not fully written yet. All of us still have a chance to preserve this humanity, to preserve the lives of each of us.
The scenario has been written, but, thank God, so far we have two scenarios, and we are choosing between the first and the second one. Yet, what we will choose depends on people, on how humane they are, and whether they will have, let's say, enough wits to understand and to make the right choice. That's already a question, but we will see it. In any case, time flies by fast. And you know what the funniest thing is? Time has started flying even faster. Last year, just as it was written in the Bible, right?
For the sake of the chosen ones, those days will be shortened.
Yes, and the days have been shortened. To this day, no one can explain why. After all, the globe used to rotate with deceleration, and this complies with all the laws of physics. But then hop, and last year it accelerated.
That's why apocalyptic scenarios are now being voiced by scientists as well. Because nobody knows what the implications are for the future and whether this trend will continue.
Of course it will. Yes, it will. These are no longer jokes, but it is just one of the signals out of a great multitude of signals, isn't it so? No, there are plenty of signals of this kind coming from all sides, no matter where you look.
Готово ли человечество?
Is humanity, with its consumerist way of relationships, ready for such developments? Obviously not.
Only people united by one goal can cope with such challenges to preserve everyone's life. That is the basis of the creative society, a society where everyone cares about each other. Learn more about the creative society at allatraunites.com.
Thank you for being with us today, and see you soon on ALLATRA TV.